The naked dude standing here is called Baphomet. Just hours ago, he was a demon king, the final boss of a massive tower. Anyone climbing this tower wants to conquer the highest peak naturally, and to slay him, of course. But over the years, no one's managed it, with his cruel nature and extraordinary power. Anyone who climbs all the way here gets pulverized by him straight away, no matter if they're old, young, big, small, male, or female. To Baphomet, humans are just trivial toys. Even the strongest hunters, knowing his power, manage to climb all the way here, throw a few punches, and then beg for their lives. Baphomet is the ruler of this tower, the guy who decides everyone's fate, and in his eyes, they're all just play dolls. Whenever someone comes to kill him, it's when he feels most excited and happy. But also when despair overwhelms him to the extreme. Why, you ask? Because until now, there hasn't been anyone worthy to be his opponent. These climbers get toyed with by Baphomet, played with for a while, then they break and fall apart. Most importantly, Baphomet can only wander around inside this tower's peak. That door will never open for you. In other words, Baphomet can't go to the human world. He can only wait hopelessly until some human comes to open the door and continue the fight. However, it's not every day someone comes here. Baphomet always has to ponder how to get through the boring times. In this place, only Baphomet exists, and he absolutely cannot open the door himself to get out. Baphomet is truly angry, frustrated, and hates this place. He doesn't understand why he's the only one locked up here, with loneliness and hopeless waiting. This moment, a phone falls out of a human's pocket, ringing. Baphomet is extremely curious about this strange object. Suddenly, an idea pops into his head. When the next hunter comes to this tower as usual, he beats the guy black and blue but doesn't kill him. Baphomet wants to ask him about how to use this phone. Seeing this, the hunter enthusiastically shows Baphomet how to use it. First of all, you can unlock the phone with facial recognition. Upon hearing this, Baphomet smartly lifts the phone owner's head to unlock it. How incredibly brilliant! Next, the hunter taught Baphomet 3 photo-taking tricks for using the camera. To preserve precious moments, of course. And he didn't forget to demonstrate by snapping a selfie with the demon king of the tower, a memento to show off to his descendants for generations. After that, the hunter continued to show the demon king other phone features, like listening to music, the only nerve-wracking stimulant that this world government allows. Plus, there's watching movies, surfing the web, playing games, and a gazillion other phone features. Seeing that Baphomet had become quite proficient, the hunter figured his work here was done and stealthily tried to escape. However, this is the Demon King's territory after all. Indeed, the value of exploitation had run out. Thus, the hunter's path in life. The life of that hunter was also over. Baphomet felt very interested in this human toy. It had become his pastime in this boring tower, looking over the pile of corpses, stacked up like mountains that he had slaughtered. Baphomet then thought, who knows, maybe he could pick up some cool items from these guys. Thought I'd make the first item Brother Six found in the heap. It's a book titled Masterpiece Collection. Baphomet glanced through it, but not understanding a dang thing, immediately tossed it aside. And just like that, Brother Six rummaged around and found one thing after another, things that are normal to humans, but things he was seeing for the very first time in his life. Occasionally, there are human artifacts, like this wedding photo of a bride here. That lets Baphomet see the life of the human world out there. Letters, messages keep popping up on the phone, but Baphomet doesn't even bother. The more important thing for him is the more he learns about the human world. He yearns even more to see that real world, not just through imagination. The human world has a belief that God can grant people wishes. If God really exists, then Baphomet also hopes that he will grant him a wish. Naturally, daydreaming all sentimental like this makes Baphomet a little uncomfortable. Just then, the tower suddenly screamed. That means someone has climbed to the highest floor. Baphomet returns to his seat. Himself, right now, doesn't even desire or long for anything anymore. Either way, the toy will soon be broken anyway. However, this time it's totally different from what Baphomet thinks. One facing him this time isn't like the other hunters. It's Raven the Hunter, a hunter with real power. Just by stepping into the tower and facing him, the power radiating from him made him exclaim in surprise, "Is this moving toy really all that he is?" The two sides wielded their swords and began to engage in close combat. With just a few simple strokes, Baphomet felt a real difference. This is the power he's been waiting for. For so long, it can be said to be top-notch, over the top, flying high. Fighting with Raven made Baphomet feel really excited, feeling of happiness he had forgotten for a long time. This is what he has been waiting for and searching for all this time, an explosive battle worthy of what he has always desired. A truly interesting fight, really interesting. It's just that the more they fought, the more Baphomet was gradually overwhelmed. That hit just now made him fall to the ground immediately. For some reason, Baphomet felt jealous of this toy named Raven. The battle grew more and more intense. Baphomet, having regained his strength, he relentlessly attacked Raven. Raven didn't hold back either, responding with equally powerful swordsmanship. His strength, coupled with masterful skills, gradually put Baphomet on the defensive. Perhaps this was the first time in all these years that he was about to lose, at the hands of an ordinary human no less. Unwilling to accept this, Baphomet immediately unleashed all of his power. After all, as the Lord of the Tower, he couldn't be so easily defeated. He used magic to create dozens of sharp weapons, hurtling straight towards Seven. But with just a light, decisive stroke, Raven easily dealt with them all. Not content with physical attacks, Raven also played psychological games. So what if you're a lord? You're still trapped here. Hearing this, Baphomet paused immediately. Raven seized this opportunity, raised his sword, and delivered a final blow, ending it all. But Baphomet, unwilling to lose, continued to use magic to counterattack. Just a lowly plaything dares to dream of defeating the lord here. But what Baphomet didn't expect was that Raven wasn't just an ordinary toy. Against all odds, he, without realizing it, lunged and slashed at his neck. Baphomet, with a fatal blow, saw that face and extraordinary power. Baphomet knew that Raven was truly human, free and powerful human being. He also wished to be like him, yearning to escape this place and truly wanting to become human. Suddenly, a strange system appeared. The screen displayed, main mission, kill the hunter Raven. The reward for this is a wish. It will come true. Raven's sword had pierced straight through Baphomet. He had succeeded in clearing the tower, and it would soon collapse. It seemed that everything was over. But then what would there be for everyone to watch? In the final moment before death, Baphomet seemed to gain more power, rising up once again. Then, with his own hands, coldly and decisively, he pierced through Raven, successfully ripping the heart right out of his chest. Finally, Baphomet killed that jerk and lived to tell the tale. After the tower collapsed, construction workers arrived to clean up. And, seeing you standing alone atop the rubble, they came to ask, "What's your name?" Baphomet has completed the task of killing hunters, and his wish to become human has come true. In this world, hunters are those who fight against monsters, existing within gates and towers. The thing is, back then, their position wasn't all that great. Unstable dungeon phenomena are occurring more and more frequently. It happens when a tower, left unmanaged for too long, collapses. As a result, monsters escape through the gate, wiping out a large part of the world's population. After that incident, humans began training hunters to deal with the towers. And Baphomet, back then, was the ruler of Tower ABC. Most hunters who came to conquer died by his hand. In the end, the one who was moved by humanity decided to become human. However, when Tower ABC collapsed, everyone mistakenly assumed this human-form Baphomet was a survivor, the only one to emerge after eliminating the ABC gate. From then on, everyone wanted to witness the heroic power that Baphomet possessed. The problem, though, is no one knew that when Baphomet became human, he lost all of his original power. And so, Baphomet, once a ruler of difficult, overbearing towers, now had a reputation as the con man of the century. After that, life led him to become the chief of the quarries behind some dungeon at a rock mine somewhere on Earth. This white-haired young man named Griffin is a newbie on the quarry team. He's being led around the dungeon for a tour by the captain. The captain is also giving him a brief introduction to the work here. Actually, Griffin had visited this place a few months ago, but looking at it now, he thinks it looks many times bigger than before. The captain says it's all thanks to the hunters who expanded this area after they defeated the monsters. As for his work, Griffin will be responsible for working in Zone D. That's where the most gemstones are found. Suddenly, there's a loud voice. Everyone, make way! Big Bro is coming through. The Big Bro being referred to here is Baphomet, and these are his underlings, calling him Big Boss. The captain leans in close to Griffin at this moment, quietly instructing him. You shouldn't associate with those guys, because they're lawbreakers who've escaped down to this quarry. They're always quick to beat up anyone they don't like, especially that guy, Baphomet. Hearing this, Griffin felt a little worried. Having people like that working here is a bit unsettling, but there's no other choice, because the foreman really likes Baphomet, since he's great at his job. Soon, it was time to get paid. The foreman happily handed out envelopes to everyone, corresponding to the amount of work they did today. Of course, Baphomet's share was not missing. He also mentioned that he'd moved that thing to the other side. Baphomet felt a twinge of anxiety hearing that. He trembled slightly. This caught Griffin's attention. After receiving their pay, Baphomet's lackeys cheerfully suggested they wanted to take him out to enjoy something. Suddenly, one of them wondered, asking Baphomet where all his daily wages went. Mentioning this made Baphomet so angry, he trembled, annoyed, clutching his head and screaming. His entire salary is all poured into a certain woman, that quack Dr. Tara. Back when Baphomet was exposed as a scammer and hit rock bottom, he got injured and needed surgery, but couldn't afford it. So she offered Baphomet a loan, but suggested he prostitute himself to pay it back. Eventually, Baphomet was forced to toil away, breaking his back, working in this quarry just to give her the money. Come to think of it, this might be for the best, better than Baphomet showing his face outside, getting his picture taken for that fraud program. The nation ain't perfect. Not by a long shot. There are a few things happening down here that annoy me, though. Some of these guys recognized Baphomet as the fraud from TV all this time, so they constantly try to provoke him. Baphomet ignored them, but the more he ignored them, the more they pushed it. Give them an inch, and they'll take a mile. Eventually, unable to take it anymore, Baphomet taught those guys a lesson. He beat them to a pulp. Anyone who came looking for trouble got schooled. Thanks to that badassery, one by one they started sticking to Baphomet, and they all hailed him as the crime boss. Not to mention, this isn't even the kind of life Baphomet desires. What he craves is to live a cool, badass life, using his powers to slay monsters like the hunters, not just beating up some thugs. Even now, Baphomet doesn't know why he lost all his power. It seems now he's probably turned into a human. Baphomet wants to be human because he wants to be strong, free, like that guy who almost killed him in the tower, lost in thought. Then, a junior's words startled him a bit. To me, you look much cooler, boss. What's so great about those hunters anyway? They're just ordinary guys like us. If we awakened, they wouldn't stand a chance. Baphomet's juniors weren't wrong. However, for him, being a hunter, both cool and powerful, is still better. Hunters in this world also earn a lot of money and are quite famous. Living in luxury and fancy villas, Baphomet's disciples believe those hunters only got those things due to luck. Ultimately, money earned from hard work is much more valuable. It's true, those who don't know the value of money are the ones who get it easily. Seeing his underlings laughing and having a blast like that, Baphomet suddenly cracked a smile. Even he didn't know why he was acting this way. He could only awkwardly explain that seeing everyone happy made him happy too somehow, which just made everyone stare at him blankly. They were even betting on who had the skill to make their boss smile so blissfully. That's when Baphomet unknowingly realized this was exactly the feeling he'd had before. It was just like the feeling he got playing with human toys back in the tower, specifically the feeling of pure enjoyment. Baphomet was enjoying the joy of being with his bros. Perhaps he was craving the power to experience the joy he had in the tower. Baphomet was just like a little kid, experiencing the world for the first time, feeling simple joy even without his powers. Thing is, ever since he arrived, Baphomet's group of lackeys didn't know his name, so they just called him Boss. Baphomet hadn't really talked or gotten close to anyone, so the whole gang was dying to know his real name. Baphomet said that he used to have a name, but he wasn't using it anymore. The little punk heard that and immediately dropped a like. He was really feeling their boss. It seems like there's been a tremendously cool history. The younger brother asked Baphomet if he wanted to use his name instead of his own. His parents put their whole heart into thinking of that name for him. But now the name and the person are completely different. Baphomet asked again what his name was. The younger brother was just about to say it when suddenly, bang! An earth-shattering explosion erupted. The entire dungeon was now engulfed in a sea of fire. The noise of the explosion and the screams, panic mixed together. B.A. Fomet could only stand rooted to the spot, staring blankly. He didn't know what that noise was just now, but it sounded terrifying, wanting to stop it. A moment later, when B.A. Fomet had regained his composure, he painfully clutched his stomach, realizing he had just been injured. Looking at the chaotic, devastated scene before his eyes, B.A. Fomet was both shocked and amazed. His hand, while fumbling, accidentally hit something on the ground. Looking over, he heartbreakingly realized it was the burning body of his gang members. Once again, the toys were destroyed. B.A. Fomet had only just felt a little warmth of human affection from this cheerful group of followers. But now, suddenly, it has become like this. He fell to the ground in pain and resentment, shouting angrily. Who the hell did this? A moment after the explosion gradually subsided, the real culprit behind this incident was the new soldier. This griffin, his true identity, is a thief hunter, especially attacking and looting them as spoils of war. The two hunters in charge of this dungeon knew about it and immediately ran to fight. With him in a battle, 2 against 1, even if not crippled, will be injured. But Griffin doesn't seem afraid of this, because to him, the things that people know are only half true. Griffin is a B-level hunter, while the hunter in charge of this dungeon is only C-level. So even if they have the overwhelming numerical advantage, they have no chance of defeating him, and they can't abandon the civilians and run away. Therefore, this hunter suggested that his teammate quickly run outside, ask other hunters for help. As for himself, he would hold Griffin back, just as he finished speaking. Suddenly, a sharp blade of sword rushed forward and gently slashed the neck of this hunter. His teammate saw this scene and screamed in fear. Finally, he couldn't help but grab his weapon and rush towards Griffin, wanting to teach him a lesson. Griffin at this time still stood there calmly and smirked contemptuously. If you're a hunter, you shouldn't get agitated. It will only make you die faster. Then, somehow, he just lightly twisted one hand, and it caused the female hunter to. This hunt took an unexpected turn when a group emerged from a space gate. It's a band of poachers. And that snake, Griffin. He pointed at the collapsed huntress, telling them he'd slit her throat. She just wouldn't stop running her mouth. All right, lads, help yourselves. Hearing that, they revealed their true twisted colors. One wants her eyes, another wants to pin her down. But Griffin's the boss, so he orders his goons to capture her alive. They'll sell her off for a quick buck. The huntress, now utterly despondent, screams in terror. Poachers start divvying up the loot they've plundered. The huntress keeps wailing, annoying them to no end. A real headache, that's for sure. Right then, the head of that poacher earlier landed right on Griffin's noggin. And who might that be? None other than Baphomet. One of Griffin's goons got caught napping and got pummeled by him. A few minutes ago, when Baphomet was still drowning in shock, despair suddenly gave way as a system panel popped up. The screen displays a hidden quest. Feeling rage on behalf of humanity, the reward is the power he craves. Just who is this insect daring to break Tao's toy? In the Fomai quarry, he advances step by step. He clenches his lips, face frigid, devoid of emotion. His target is the sword planted beside the corpse of Hunter Nam. Fomai reaches out, grasping the sword's hilt. Blue system screen flashes a stark white exclamation point. It announces, using another's weapon reduces performance to 0%. Performance 1%. The system seems glitched. The blue display slowly shifts to crimson. 4 words, a chaotic system error, appear on the screen. As Fomai completely draws the sword from the earth, the display turns entirely red. It announces Fomai's passive skill. Weapon Master activated. Weapon Steel Skill auto-activated. Due to Weapon Master passive activation, instantly, Fomai bursts forth, a white flash. And just like that, the goon's head parts ways with his neck. It soars high, even beyond the smoking thief hunter, and lands squarely before him. Fomai asks, "Which jerk is it?" The startled poacher jumped back. His jaw dropped, and his cigarette fell to the ground. He turned his head. Fomet stood behind him, expressionless, and swung his sword. A warm, red liquid splattered out. He stared directly at him, saying he'd broken his toy. "You wretched little bug." The surprised poacher didn't understand, and asked, "Toy?" The 2 accomplices in front of him were terrified and wanted to retreat. Fomet stepped on the corpse he had just felled, hand gripping the sword hilt tightly. He looked straight at the poacher, his lips moving slightly. He asked if he was a survivor. The poacher smirked. "I don't understand what you're saying," he scoffed. Fomet glared at them. "I'm asking about them?" he sneered. The poacher cupped his hand to his ear, mocking Fomet. "Aren't you too old to play with toys?" he taunted. Fomet didn't want to waste any more words, so he charged straight at him. The two accomplices blocked him, terrified and wanting to back away. He angrily shouted at the two of them, "What are you idiots doing standing there?" Taking his place, he was a bit surprised, wondering if Fomet, that hoodlum, was a hunter. "Ha!" He grinned ferociously, telling Fomet to test the strength of this scoundrel. His comrade stood before him, gripping his weapon tightly. The other one gritted his teeth with determination. Fomet sighed. "So many targets at once, huh? Doesn't happen too often." The two clueless comrades rushed forward to attack Fomet. But immediately after, with just one swing of his sword, Fomet sent both of their weapons flying. Before their astonished eyes, the sword, still dripping with blood, in Fomet's hand, thrust straight towards one of the two comrades. The other one startled, horrified by his speed. He only had time for a quick glance, and witnessed his comrade, just barely, screaming before the sword in Fomet's hand pierced his head. The remaining comrade was furious, enraged. "Damn it! This bastard!" he yelled, rushing to attack Fomet. Fomet kicked the already deceased comrade away. He forcefully pulled his sword back. He glanced at the comrade attacking him. Easily catching his arm, he looked chillingly terrifying at that moment. The blood-soaked sword in his hand swung up. The moment the sword came down, the other guy's head was severed from his neck. A warm, red liquid splattered, drenching half of Cheese's face as he sank into the shadows. He raised his eyes to look at the poaching hunter before him. His gaze was extremely sharp and cold. The poaching hunter still stood rooted in place. He even had the nerve to curl his lip into a smile. The corner of his eye curved, flashing a cunning glint. He felt a surge of excitement within him. He thought to himself, "Not bad, kid." He gripped his weapon tightly, charging towards Cheese. He raised his hand, easily blocking with his sword. Their weapon blades collided, vibrating intensely. He laughed, looking rather intrigued. He said Cheese was better than he thought. He asked him his name, but Cheese glared at him, not replying. The two weapons grated against each other, creating a streak of light. They both retracted their weapons at the same time. He guessed it was Fomet, rank C, but then he denied it himself. No. He laughed loudly. His entire face seemed to distort, making him look even more terrifying. He excitedly said, "You're above rank C." A flash of sword light streaked past Fomet's neck, and he leaned back, managing to dodge in time. He realized he had a new bloody scratch on his cheek. Blood flowed from the wound, following the curve of his face. He remained silent in the quarry as the thieving hunter continued to chatter. He asked, "Why would a rank SA like you be hiding here, acting like a thug? Don't tell me you have some other ulterior motive here," he said mockingly. "Sorry to have bothered you." He rested his weapon on his shoulder. He squinted and said that, "Whatever it is, that's all you'll ever know." He grabbed his weapon and rushed towards him with a sinister expression. He confidently said, "Because you're going to die now." Fomet calmly held his blood-soaked sword horizontally in front of him. His eyes cautiously watched the person in front of him. A beautiful, curved sword stroke is unleashed. Its speed is so fast you can't see it clearly, only follow it. Through the flashes of white light it leaves behind, Fomet is shocked to find another wound appearing on his shoulder. Then, immediately after, on his cheek. It came so unexpectedly, he couldn't react in time. However, it doesn't stop there. The next location is his thigh. Fomet raises his hand to block. A cut appears on his upper arm. In just a moment, several sword strikes are unleashed, accompanied by continuous wounds, appearing all over Fomet's body. However, not a single slash hits his vitals. That thieving hunter curls his lips into a cold smirk. Who knows when? His sword had already broken apart into segments connected by steel wires. It looks as though it's transformed into a long, sharp whip. He continuously controls the wire, lashing it continuously at Fomet's body. That's precisely why so many wounds have appeared all over him. He's confident Fomet can't beat him, secretly thinking, "This chain sword is specifically for dealing with those jerks who rely on their physical strength. It's even more effective when used against those who lack experience. Dealing with hunters. He thinks you're a valuable asset, so he'll make a special effort to slice your head off." Suddenly, Fomet's eyes lit up as he swung his sword, easily deflecting the crimson sword that was hurtling towards him. The grave robber hunter was a little surprised. He didn't understand why Fomet, who was standing still and taking it, suddenly managed to block the attack. Immediately after, he launched 2 more attacks. Fomat still managed to parry them, a red frame appearing, indicating that Fomat's passive ability had been triggered. It's been activated if he loses too much health. Fomat stood still. His arms moved constantly, and he easily blocked the grave robber hunter's moves. The system displayed information again that his skill would be increased by 15%. His eyes gleamed. None of the grave robber hunter's attacks could touch him anymore. Grave robber hunter was shocked, not believing his eyes. He wondered, what is happening? He actually blocked all of his moves? He's muttering, joking? One direct punch, straight to the guy. Ow! He flies backwards, smashing into the ground. Big boom! Debris is flying everywhere. He leans against the rock, now with cracks, groaning softly in pain. But Pow doesn't give him a chance to retaliate, continuing his assault. He's shocked, hastily raising his weapon to block. Only now does he realize how scary Pow is, gritting his teeth to resist. He thinks to himself, this jerk is too strong. Pow suddenly lifts his sword, lessening the oppressive force. Immediately afterward, another strike comes down. A lucky thief hunter jumps out of the way just in time to dodge. The rock he was just leaning against is shattered to pieces by Pow's sword. Missing his attack, Pow glares at him. His expression right now looks truly terrifying. He grips the sword tightly in his hand without hesitation. He charges towards him, making him jump. He didn't expect him to be so decisive. He thinks to himself, Pow believes his physical strength is superior to his. He struggled, gritting his teeth, and spat out the word scram. He shouted loudly, telling him to leave, as the sword in his hand turned into a long whip. He thought that if he used more strength, he would be the winner when An got tired. Just as he thought, An was just a reckless amateur who didn't know a single decent skill. Fomat bent down, dodging the long whip attack from him. His eyes in the darkness shone frighteningly. The thieving hunter still thought that if he was patient, An would be finished. But Fomat just stared intently at him with a fierce look. He suddenly unleashed an astonishing aura. The thieving hunter was so scared by his gaze that his hair stood on end. His face turned pale, unable to contain his fear. He held his weapon and stood motionless on the spot. The feeling of terror when facing a terrifying monster seemed to take over his entire mind. He wondered, what was this? What was he fighting against? Like a monster. In that moment, the seventh god within him, Fomat lunged and raised his sword. His arm fell. He was shocked, his face pale as warm. Red liquid splattered out, scattering everywhere. Fomat glared at him, saying, this arm is for those who are always thrown onto the battlefield. He remembered the lackey who led the others to bully him when he first came to the quarry. He used to wink and smile at him. The thieving hunter glanced at his severed arm. Hot blood splattered on his face. Unable to accept the pain, he screamed, calling him a bastard. Immediately after, another sword swung, and his other arm was severed as well. Fomat remembered his bald lackey who always smiled. He said, this arm is for that jerk who is always silent. The thieving hunter screamed in agony, followed by another strike. Fresh blood spurted out. Fomat remembered the lackey with the round, chubby face, holding a chocolate bar in his hand. He said, this left leg is for that fatty who always brings food. The thieving hunter lost a leg. He couldn't even stand. He collapsed onto the ground, his whole body trembling in pain. He whimpered in fear, then begged Fomat to stop. Fomat stood before him, unwavering. I'll take that other leg of yours, he said. He recalled the scene before him, when the brown-haired minion had exploded right in front of him. The boy's expression screamed that his name was Chamanu. Hot blood gushed out once more, accompanied by a scream of utter terror. The thief hunter looked as though his eyes were about to burst. The pain twisted his face beyond recognition. The thief hunter, now without his limbs, lay in a pool of blood. Fomat stood high above, looking down. Both hands gripped the sword tightly, aiming straight at his neck. I'm telling you, he said, as the man uttered strained, fearful growls through his teeth. He looked up at Fomat, his whole body trembling in disbelief that he could be defeated and then tortured to such a crippled state. The heck is this? He stammered, his voice trembling. Who are you? Fomat ignored his question. He slowly lowered the sword near his neck and continued. This is the price for ticking me off. The grave robber's face was a mask of utter terror. Cold sweat poured down his face as he stammered incoherently. Fomat didn't let him utter a single dying word. He plunged his sword down, then yanked it out decisively, sending a spray of crimson liquid everywhere. His entire face was swallowed by shadow. Only his eyes in the darkness were frighteningly bright. The moment the sword pierced the grave robber's neck, Feomat felt an unprecedented surge of fiery heat. Jan pulled his sword back, splattering blood all around. A sensation of unbearable heat consumed his body. He frantically hacked at the corpse of the grave robber before him. Blood splattered all over him, making him look utterly terrifying. That red notification panel reappeared. It declared that those who constantly crave power would suffer dire consequences. Every cell in his body seemed to be screaming, going insane. He nearly lost control, becoming Feomat, the monster atop the tower. No longer human. He needed a human to offer themselves to him. The display showed that his condition was caused by going BAP. The berserker factor, triggering bloodlust, has been activated by the outburst. Brother Cheese, one hand holding his sword, the other clutching his head. His body screams, "Too hot! I need a human, not these chunks of meat. A living human." Suddenly, behind him, the moans of the living. His lifeless eyes gleam with terrifying intensity. He's found what he needs. He turns toward the huntress, collapsed on the ground. The blood-soaked sword he wields points at her. In his bloodthirsty berserk state, he recognizes her as human, a living human right here. Something in his mind screams for him to kill them. Brother Cheese hesitates, standing still. His entire face falls into shadow and deep malice as that thing screams, telling him he is a creation born to kill humans. Kill them! He slowly raises his sword, controlled by the voice. Damn it! Inside his head, suddenly more people appear in the quarry, and it seems there's more than just one person. Someone has spoken up, reporting to the manager. He said there's someone alive here. Feomat was drawn to that person's voice. The sword in his hand froze. His lifeless eyes glanced towards the sound's origin. He heard him continue. However, the situation is odd. One survivor is trying to kill another survivor. The manager asked, "Are there any corpses or a bloody mess around there?" He grabbed the radio, continuing his report. "He looks a lot like the one we're searching for." Just as he finished speaking, a hand suddenly patted his back. It was the manager he had just called. He said, I'm here, so you can put down the radio now." Having said that, the manager looked at Feomat, who was holding the sword. He seemed a bit surprised. After clearly seeing his face, he said, "The one we're looking for doesn't look like this." Feomat had almost lost his ability to control himself. All he could recognize was there were humans in front of him. Two of them, in fact. Realizing there were two of them, he didn't hesitate. Hesitantly grabbing his sword, he charged to attack the two of them. The manager said he thought they had seen Feomat's face somewhere before. As he spoke, he realized Feomat was charging to attack them. The glasses he was wearing flashed brightly. The person who recognized Feomat widened his eyes in astonishment. Feomat's eyes flashed a red light. He roared in anger and told them to die. Suddenly, a slender, glowing hand appeared in the air right in front of him. That hand curled its thumb and middle finger. Feomat froze, not understanding. Someone groaned. "Do you have any idea how hard it is to capture you alive? I can't let you die just yet." Right then, the hand flicked him on the forehead, ordering him to sleep tight for a while. The cheese rushing towards them suddenly froze in place when the two appeared. He was flicked on the head and leaned back. Following that, he fell flat on his back, completely unconscious, with a blank look on his face. What did those two just do exactly? Cheesy overload. I wonder what that hand was all about. My brain screaming cheesy goodness. I see myself as a goat-headed monster sitting upright in a tower. There I sat, listening to the sycophants call me Cheese Lord. They promised to serve me for all eternity. To serve me for all eternity. Cheese stretched out a hand, commanding death. Exterminate all humans on Earth. I am a bloodthirsty monster who loves carnage. I want everything to kneel before the name of Cheese. Suddenly, someone called me a frog in a well, and a sharp sword pierced me. Red blood splattered everywhere, staining the blade. I saw myself in a human body, pierced through by Dragon's sword. Dragon's face was shrouded in darkness. He said I probably didn't know this when I ruled the tower. Jason's face slowly revealed itself, a chillingly cold expression. He spat the truth. I was just a weakling. Cheese gritted his teeth, unwilling to accept it. I heard Jason say that the weak deserve to be sent to hell. Cheese woke up from the nightmare. His entire body was stiff. Not fully awake yet, his eyes widened, darting around as he wondered, What was that? He knelt on one knee on the floor, turning his head, looking around, muttering in confusion. Where are you, I wonder? Clearly, he's at the quarry. Suddenly, a voice echoed through the machinery. The guy asked if he could hear him. Finally, he came to. Pommet heard him, but understood nothing. Elsewhere, the person speaking to Pommet smirked. He heard him ask who he was. He didn't answer Pommet's question, instead saying something baffling. That rare Mr. Quarryman. Pommet seemed to realize something. He glanced in one direction. The other guy continued rambling about how no wonder his face looked familiar. He was a quarryman, arrested for trying to demolish the Hell Tower illegally, right? But such a quarryman just happened to kill the hunter we were after. Are you going to try and weasel out of this? His face was shrouded in darkness, his mouth opening and closing as he spouted a load of information. He asked Pommet if he had killed that hunter. Pommet fell into contemplation. In his mind, a branch of memory grasped the key words kill and hunter. He was probably talking about the jerk I pulverized. CG, huh? I stood rooted to the spot in the room. My face darkened. Expression unreadable. The guy went on, saying he'd looked into my info a bit, but came up with nothing. Like I didn't even have a name or identity. Legit. He read from the intel they'd gathered. Can't find registration info, nor hunter status. Yet, strength on par with a hunter. Could this guy have not registered as a hunter? Or maybe he's in the awakening phase? He asked again, what's Fomet's name? I just grimaced, not answering him. Seeing my reaction, he said, we'll decide what to do with you, based on the answer you give us. His words were cut short when a punch suddenly flew. Fomet, who'd been standing still, suddenly lashed out, punching the dark glass. The glass shattered, leaving a small hole. Fomet's fist remained embedded in the glass. The cracks on the glass spread rapidly from the small hole. I coldly told him, quit your yapping. Why is he asking so many questions? Behind the glass, someone keeps asking, and then falls silent, stunned. Fomet maintains his stance before the glass, saying, if you want to know someone's name, then first introduce yourself to them. But you're locking me in a cage and casually watching me from behind a thick wall. At this, he couldn't help but curse, you filthy bastard. His voice echoed throughout the room. He retorted, digging for information, eh? Who made you this way? They agreed with me first, under the guise of a hero. And the hunter you're chasing after? He admitted, I killed him. He challenged, so what if I did? Am I supposed to sit here and rethink my actions? With that, he glared, his anger escalating, his face becoming more savage. He demanded, why should I have to do that? He provoked me first, so no matter how many times he's resurrected, I'll kill him every single time. Your face is frighteningly gloomy. You stare right through the glass, as if piercing through that guy, not even trying to hide the malice. You say you'll chop off his limbs, grind him into tiny pieces, leaving not a trace. Then, no one will ever know he existed. Saying that, you ask the person behind the glass, what if you did the same to him? That creep couldn't even finish the last syllable before he couldn't help but smirk, bursting into laughter. His laughter echoed through the machines, filling the room that's keeping Fomet locked up. Fomet retracts his fist. I'm fine. Yet he's laughing. Right after, I hear his confident voice reaching my ears, asking if I can really kill him. Fomet then suddenly realizes that guy casually puts both hands in his pockets. An air of self-assurance appears before me. The door to the room slowly opens. He laughs, saying, see, his eyes are curved like crescent moons. He says he's out in the open now, so what am I going to do? Next moment, seeing him appear, Fomet's bearing reminded him of Raven, that guy who showed up at the tower's end and wiped him out. The cold eyes and Raven's air back then, those two give him the exact same feeling. A fleeting sound. Then, Fomet vanished from the spot. Without hesitation, he lunged, attacking, only to see a flash of light right before his eyes. The guy in front didn't dodge, but smirked confidently. A massive impact shook the room. The ground cracked in several places. Dust billowed everywhere. Fomet lay on the ground, eyes wide, panting. The other guy chuckled, confirming he'd really awakened. He used one hand to control Fomet's fist, the other squeezing his throat, saying, now that's what I call a pro-gamer move. Fomet struggled, gasping for air, thinking to himself, this guy's way too OP. He maintained his hold on Fomet. Behind him stood another person, one of his underlings. He stood stiffly, hands behind his back, ignoring what was happening. He said he should introduce himself then. They belonged to a government organization. It was secretly established to stop criminal hunters called Roju. His subordinate slightly bowed his head, looking at the two of them. The guy heard him say he'd get straight to the point. The hunter he killed was the one they were after, and he would have been killed as soon as he was captured. He squinted, saying his crime was committing inhumane acts. He disguised himself as a deadly hunter. He specialized in hunting down other innocent hunters and illegally trading their organs. The hand strangling Fomet tightened further, and Yan gritted his teeth, his whole body trembling. But the other guy didn't seem to care. He said there's a superstitious rumor among the wealthy. The rumor is that if you eat the organs of an awakened person, you will gain a powerful body and immortality. Fomet didn't know if he could hear, but he used his free hand. He tried to pull the guy's hand off his neck and brace himself, but clearly he wasn't as strong as him, so it was all useless. He said they are extremely grateful that he helped them. Just toss that burden away. But the truth is, you can't deny you killed someone, can you? You massacred 5 people. They saw those bodies, disposed of so neatly, so cleanly. The killer must be a real pro. He insists that someone newly awakened couldn't possibly create such a scene without hesitation. Though granted, some individuals do have a natural talent for killing. Yet, from his experience, he reckons those cases, he squinted, observing the look on your face, and continued, usually belong to veteran murderers, seasoned killers whose hands are stained with the blood of thousands. Fomet gritted his teeth. His face trembled from the effort. He heard him go on about how all he found was that you're a con artist, so he tried to strike up a conversation to see what kind of person you are, after all. Listening to him ramble, Fomet just felt annoyed. His mind was a raging red haze, while the other guy was still blathering on. Should he tell you what his impression of you is, eh? While Fomet is struggling with the thought, being human is hard. He talks to himself, answering, I'm very dangerous. Fomet is wondering, I'm not allowed to pounce on those guys like him directly. He doesn't know these thoughts of mine. He says, I was indeed born with the heart of a devil if I'm not stopped. Perhaps one day I'll become a criminal hunter they'll be forced to expel. At this moment, Fomet only wishes he could have stayed the same from the start. He wishes he had a more carefree body. He remembers the dragon hunter's figure in the tower. He thinks he's also looking at that guy who's rambling. What's he thinking? This festering tumor. In Fomet's head, he lumps them together. He thinks, that one too. They'll all be crushed under my feet. The hand controlling Fomet's fist is suddenly withdrawn. He hides in the shadows, laughing. Needs to be eliminated. His hand, spread out in front of Fomet, looks like it could crush him at any moment. For some reason, he feels helpless and unwilling. He can't hold it in anymore, cursing crudely in his heart. Standing tall is the high-rise building. That is the headquarters of the Hunter Management Center. Inside, many people are waiting to use the services. The clear voices of several professional female employees continuously echoed within. They express gratitude and wish for someone to develop stronger soon. Then they warmly ask if that person wants to continue paying the fee for the rented gun. The female employee calls number 10,022. She looks at the person who just appeared in front of her, offering a professional smile. She greets and asks what she can do for him. Fomet had changed into a different set of clothes. There was a bandage on his face. He looks straight at the female employee without answering immediately. He recalls the scene at that time. The person who had just grabbed his neck brought his face close to his and smiled like a sly old fox. He pointed his index finger at his chest, asking if he was scared. He pushed himself up from on top of him and said that even if it were them, they wouldn't dare do anything so reckless. Plus, he quite liked his personality. Fomet reached out to rub his sore neck, glaring at him defensively. He heard him say that someone with his talent would surely be able to handle any problem. I don't understand what he's saying. Immediately after that, he seriously made an offer that you should become a hunter under Roju. Go. Your talent for killing, that should be dedicated to Roju. Back to the present. He looked at the female employee and said he had come to register as a hunter. The female employee smiled and said she understood. She asked for his ID and the results of his hunter aptitude test. He remembered the man with glasses said they would make a few minor changes with Ha's identity. He would also contact other agencies to help him pass the test. Assessment of competence too. After a while of manipulation, the female employee smiled and said the check was complete. Thank you. Now please register register a code name. She further explained that it was the name he would use as a hunter. He remembered the man with glasses had instructed him. The policy of creating a completely separate code name is to distinguish between ordinary people and hunters. Without it, you can't register. Right now, the receptionist is asking if you have any code names in mind, not using your real name, right? If not, they can offer some suggestions. A few phrases popped into Fomet's head, recalling what the bespectacled man said before he came here. He said that in this industry, many businesses have to operate in secrecy, because this line of work already attracts way too much attention. Still, he should try to get there without drawing too much notice. Fomet chuckled to himself, thinking, that guy is going to regret giving me this chance. I'll become stronger than anyone, and he looked straight at the receptionist, smiling. Then he said his code name, Fomet. Fomet felt confident, certain that he would strike fear into anyone. Just by hearing his name, a wolf with fur as white as snow was opening its mouth wide, full of sharp teeth. It looked ferocious, like it wanted to tear its prey to shreds. Immediately, with a knee strike, Fomet easily took it down. Another wolf behind him snarled, seizing this chance to attack. Fomet anticipated it, swiftly turning around and using his bare hands to fight. He's going to take down this wolf right now. I easily nabbed the wolf, and with a simple arm wrestle, I gently defeated it. Behind me, some wolves were still hissing, baring their fangs. They didn't dare approach. They knew they were no match for me, so they wisely retreated. Then a huge foot of a beast stomped down, shaking the earth. In the forest, the Wolf King's eyes glowed. Its massive body gradually appeared. It extended its hand with sharp claws, wanting to attack Fomet. I suddenly raised my hand, asking it to wait a moment, causing it to pause in surprise. It glared at me, as if its eyeballs were about to pop out. Fomet raised his hand in the air, wanting to try his summoning magic. I stood there, saying, "Come on, hurry up." But what I expected didn't appear. Nothing changed in the forest at all. I stood in front of the Wolf King, looking like a total clown. I held that pose and wondered, "Not coming?" The Wolf King probably thought I was mocking him. It lost its patience, so it swung its paw down where I was standing. Immediately after, as if realizing something, it was startled. Its eyes widened, it froze, looking down at the human who had just punched it in the body. With just one punch, its entire body, its 6 viscera and 5 bowels, were as if shattered. Energy blasted from its body, scattering everywhere with overwhelming power. Clearly, it doesn't have the slightest ability to resist. Fomet stepped out of the portal formed from magic. As I thought, one hand in his pocket, the other extended, he looked at his palm, feeling somewhat disappointed because his power hasn't completely returned to him. The reason for this, currently there's only one. He looked at the glaring red display in front of him. On it, it read, "Hidden mission completed. Wrath in the name of humanity. The main reward is one's own desired power." He raised a hand to his chin, falling into contemplation. He pondered the phrase, "one's own desired power." He understood. He only killed that power-wielding criminal, so recovering this much is expected. That amount of power is easy to understand. But that's for later. Fomet looked at the red display board before him, a bit unwilling. What the heck is this? Even since I was in the tower, it still won't let me go. Why do I have to let this red thing order me around, honestly? Fomet raised a hand to scratch his head, then stepped forward. I thought with annoyance. Even if I had questions, who'd bother answering? Anyway, I know what I need to do next. I raise my hand. Clenching my fist, I focus on my power. If my power is gone, I just need to get it back. Simple. I'm too used to clawing my way up from the bottom after all. Suddenly, I sense a terrifying energy, a horrifying presence behind me. The unknown thing emitting this dreadful power cackles and asks, "Your name is Fomet?" Fomet grits his teeth, cautiously turning his head, wanting to know who it is. Turns out it's the man with the glasses. He angrily asks, "You trying to get my attention?" Fomet shoves his hands in his pockets, walking closer. He's yelling in the phone screen, his subordinate handed to Fomet. He says, "What kind of lunatic takes the name King Tower as an alias?" Fomet raises an eyebrow, asking, "What's the deal?" His subordinate says awkwardly, "Management is calling." The man with glasses is, in fact, the manager. He says, "I told you to stop causing a public stir. Knowing you have a grudge against the group of people calling you fake, why does every rumor about you sound like a horror story? Your reputation's so trashed, not even stray cats would touch it." Fomet sticks his finger in his ear, acting like, "Hear no evil, see no evil." The manager on the other end won't let up. "There's more," he says. "The investigation results from the Tower of Hell are in. It was the hunter known as Seven who conquered it." Fomat's finger, mid-ear dig, freezes at that statement. His eyes widen. He suddenly snaps awake. Silence descends, broken only by the manager's incessant nagging. "Things are even worse now," he says. "Who knew that one of South Korea's top hunters would have to sacrifice himself to take down Fomat?" So they're trying to figure out. Suddenly, Fomat interrupts with 2 words. "So what?" His mouth opens, then snaps shut. "Are you saying," he asks, "I have to grovel before everyone? Is that all? I'm so used to those 3 rumors. I'm bored now." He looks like he desperately needs a smack. "Let them rumor," he says. "Until you are stronger, remind those guys here to go to sleep. Remember to check under the bed. Monsters will come to visit." On the street, he put both hands in his pockets, standing opposite, looking at the phone screen that his subordinate was holding to look at him. He silently watched how he reacted. In the phone, his voice rang out with a slight contempt. He clicked his tongue and said, "You are only good at bragging. Do you really believe that you will get through this?" Hearing him ask that, Fomat was silent, not understanding what he couldn't overcome. Seeing him react indifferently to this matter like that, the manager also didn't want to advise him anymore. He said if so, then be prepared to accept the consequences of your choice. He made an appointment to meet him at Jeju Island, and then hung up. At Jeju Island, Fomat opened his eyes wide, looking at the scene in front of him. His eyes shone brightly. Still, he felt it was unreal. Looking at the blue coast in front of him, he was surprised and wondered, "Is that the sea?" It was similar to what he had seen in the phone. My boss's underling fiddled with his phone, then said we should grab a taxi now. 2 hours left before it kicks off. Just 1 minute of inattention. Fomat was as giddy as a kid running towards the ocean. He happily cried out, "The sea! Oh, my days!" My boss's underling just stared at his back, speechless. Fomat was still engrossed in gazing at the sea. He marveled. "It stretches out forever in it? Amazing, mate." My boss's underling glanced at Fomat frolicking around. He thought to himself, he's not someone you can rely on. Knowing that, why does the boss still want to keep him around? He didn't understand the boss's decision. He recalled when it was just the 2 of them. The boss sat in his chair and told him, "You know full well this job ain't for ordinary folks." He intertwined his fingers and rested his chin, chuckling. They need someone flawed enough to manipulate easily. Whatever he says, he's always keeping an eye on Fomat. If he does anything stupid, I myself, well, he stopped talking right there, didn't he? But the implication was clear as day, wasn't it? A man and a woman appeared up ahead, walking together. They seemed to be having a jolly old time chatting away. Suddenly, someone blurted out, "Blue eyes! Blondie!" The blue-eyed dude talking to the woman beside him froze. He peered over at whoever was flapping their gums, but it was Cheese who appeared before them. The terrifying aura emanating from him made them gawk, their eyes practically popping out. They froze, not daring to take another step. He scrutinized them with a curious gaze, like he'd just spotted some bizarre creature. He couldn't help but wonder, are these the different species that Doohickey was talking about? Indeed, their appearance is somewhat. Before he could finish, T-Zhang grabbed him by the scruff of his neck and dragged him across the ground. "Move it, you, and stop embarrassing our country," he snapped. Cheese, being dragged away, wasn't even mad. He even had the nerve to wave. He waved goodbye to the blue-eyed dude, no less. The whole thing happened so fast, those tourists didn't even have time to scratch their heads before it was over. That day was a beautiful day, atop a high-rise building on Jeju Island, introducing a Fomat orientation course for new hunters joining the hunting profession. It will be held here. Fomat put both hands in his pockets, standing opposite Tiang, asking about the orientation course. Tiang explained that it is a training program for new hunters to quickly adapt. Because Fomat didn't understand, he asked, "Why go to such trouble? Isn't it enough for hunters to just kill monsters?" Tiang patiently told him that it was because the number of older people is large. The power in this monster location is higher. While speaking, he suddenly stopped and said, "Forget it." He meant that this is a law enacted by the government. Unlike other countries, hunters here are hired directly by the government. So what kind of hunters they use is also their right. Tiang handed his ID card and phone to Fomat and told him to take them. He took it and said in surprise, "This smartphone?" he asked again, unsure. "Really for me?" Yang replied in an indifferent manner. He said, Of course, Fomet's mood improved considerably. In one hand, he held his ID card. In the other hand, he held the phone, smiling happily. When I asked, he usually calls me Chamin Wu, right? Fomet looks at his ID card, in contemplation. It says Chamin Wu. Then he falls into silence. He remembers the echoing voice of the brown-haired subordinate right before he exploded in front of him. He asked if he even uses his real name. His parents put so much effort into it, yet he never gets to use it. Young gives a thumbs up towards the door, then tells him, that's it. He reminds him it's almost time, and tells him to go in. Fomet thought Yang would go with him. Haven't you been babysitting me this whole time? He asks. Yang thinks to himself, he's pretty sharp, huh? In Fomet's expectant gaze, he looks him dead in the eye and says, just go in, and you'll find out. Fomet's eyes darken. He's dissatisfied, but he doesn't say anything. In his heart, he just keeps repeating, you'll find out, from that guy. At the massive arena, the manager stands on the platform to speak. He says, welcome, hunters, and introduces himself as the host of today's course. He smirks like a sly old fox, saying his name is Ma Seo-un. Fomet, eyeing him on the platform, thought to himself, so that's what he meant, huh? In the cafeteria area, few hunters strolled along the food counters, helping themselves to grub. Fomet suddenly spoke up. What the heck is going on here? He glared at the manager, namely Marcel, who was standing next to him. Isn't he supposed to be in some kind of secret agent squad? Marcel was sweating bullets. He hurriedly told Fomet to keep it down. Someone will hear you. He explained that outwardly, he's a member of the Hunter Management Center, then asked if Fomet understood. Fomet, without a shred of politeness, snidely remarked that he's good at fooling people too, isn't he? He laughed without any embarrassment, saying it's better than being a hypocrite of the century, though. Fomet, dissatisfied, asked what he was babbling about. He cocked his head towards the gossiping group, hiding their mouths. Then, instructing Fomet to look at them, he told them to get Fo. We've been gossiping about him for ages now. He said their friendship might be even closer, since they had to suffer facing all that cheese together. Those guys, each and every one of them, is giving Fomet the evil eye. One of the southern guys asked the dude next to him, over there, isn't that the con artist? Dares he even show his face here? Furthermore, they addressed him as Fomet, yet he nonchalantly ignored them. Hey, I heard them calling you a nutcase. Ma Seong-un covered his mouth, whispering. He looked troubled, saying, yeah, that's right. Don't act like you know him. He doesn't want you to catch flack because of him. A girl with short brown hair waved to Ma Seong-un, excitedly calling, Manager, over here. Ma Seong-un immediately spun around, saying, okay, I'll be right there. Leaving Fomet alone with his plate of food, Fomet turned away. He didn't care, and figured it was for the best. He really didn't have time to care anyway. Enjoying the food was much more fun. Ma Seong-un saw Fomet sitting at a nearby table. He noticed the joyous look on his face, his whole body radiating a rosy, pinkish glow. He wondered, why is he so strangely happy? He pondered, is he just grinning and bearing it? Or what? Indeed, he is a patient person. But I still feel relieved, knowing his spirit is so strong. Suddenly, something happened, startling him. Even his eyebrows furrowed tightly at a group of hunters. They were coming from out of nowhere, surprising him. He looked at them and wondered, what's going on? Why are A-rank hunters coming here? The arrogant group walked in together. An ominous premonition rose in Ma Seong-un's heart, and he trembled. Trembling and sweating profusely, he asked, what's going on? Why are A-ranks? The short-haired, brown-haired girl was looking at them. They turned to him, surprised, and asked, what? Haven't you received the notice? She said that some A-rank hunters would also start special training today. Ma Seong-un, unasked, wasn't it next week? She replied that they kept changing the date. It ended up being today. It's okay if you can't keep up. She asked, but isn't this a good opportunity? New hunters can learn more from them, Marcion. Unsweated profusely, forcing a smile and saying, that's right. Anyone can learn more. I thought of Fomet and suddenly understood, except for that guy. Fomet has absolutely no idea what's going on outside. He stared intently at the lavish spread he had just grabbed. His eyes sparkled with happiness, declaring, this is. His cheeks flushed rosy. He grinned cheerfully. Then he remembered, wasn't there some kind of phone app that takes pictures of food? It truly piqued his curiosity. After all, as a demon, he never needed to eat. He gazed intently at the dishes, musing, I've tried kanji and ramen. However, things like this, never. What am I supposed to say at times like this? That's right, Fomet remembered. He grabbed a spoon, grinning from ear to ear, saying, Bon appetit! Before he could even finish, someone grabbed a glass of water and dumped it right over his head. Everyone in the cafeteria was shocked, turning to look. The one who dumped the water on his head sneered, Aren't you the famous Fomet? Fomet froze, unable to react. Not knowing who that person was, he asked, Who is it? The troublemaker raised an eyebrow, looking provocatively at Fomet, saying, Pleased to meet you. He used to be so curious. I wondered how terrifying he could be, but it turns out he's just a normal guy. Someone answered the curious person regarding his identity. He's Leon, an A-rank hunter, and his companion went up to him. That person called him Bang Di-Huan and asked, What are you doing? Fomet is sitting at the table. His whole face is soaking wet, yet he doesn't react at all. Bang Di-Huan's companion tried to stop him, saying he was acting rude. Everyone's watching. He gritted his teeth in anger, saying, How could he act like nothing's wrong when he's face-to-face with this jerk? Bang Di-Huan's companion apologized to Fomet on his behalf and criticized, You're not entirely innocent because they lost so many comrades because of that Fomet guy. That person said operating under that codename is basically mocking the other hunters. A cold drop of water rolled down Fomet's cheek. He glared, looking very angry. The other guy didn't notice a thing. He just kept advising him to choose a more appropriate name. Before he could finish, Fomet grabbed the tray of food from the table and dumped it straight over his head. Bang Di-Huan was stunned, his eyes wide. He couldn't believe what had just happened. Everyone around was shocked, unable to believe their eyes. Masao suddenly slammed his head on the table, as if he were dead. His very soul wanted to escape. A short-haired brunette standing next to him anxiously asked, What's wrong? Bang Di-Huan gritted his teeth in fury. He hissed each word through his clenched teeth. What the heck? He grabbed Fomet's collar, angrily saying, Are you tired of living? Fomet, with an indifferent expression, looked at him. He opened his mouth, saying he was making a big fuss over just a name. Don't worry, he won't resurrect just because you use his name. Fomet's words only made him angrier. He asked, What did you say, you dog? Fomet, without the slightest fear, looked straight at him, smiling. If you care so much about your comrades, why didn't you eliminate Fomet sooner instead of running around, proclaiming how weak you are? Bang Di-Huan's companion peeked out from behind Bang Di-Huan, saying, What nonsense are you talking about? Fomet doesn't care about him and only focuses on mocking Bang Di-Huan.